shit, ayy. Yeah, ayy.
All right. All right, we're going to bring it on in.
Man, we got a great guest here, man. We got someone with a lot of intellect, a lot of knowledge, a lot of wisdom. Very, very, very intelligent. We have
Appreciate that.
Todd Cooper right here. Todd, I would like you to introduce yourself, man, but we're glad to have you, man, and it's a pleasure.
Yeah, definitely glad to be here. Todd Cooper, that's my government name. Coach Coop is my basketball name.
Okay. They call you Coach Coop.
Coach
so
Coop.
On Twitter, what's your name on Twitter?
Oh, Nike Coop.
Nike Coop.
Nike Coop. Hey, that could be changing here pretty soon, but right now it's Nike Coop.
It don't matter. We know it's Coach Coop.
Coach Coop.
Coach Coop. Man, Coach Coop has been around the grassroots space for quite some time. Done some remarkable things. Had made a remarkable impression on a lot of lives. Came up the pipe with some outstanding players on the national scene. Just done some great things. Coached some top players in the country. Mentioning like Chavez. Justice. I'm not gonna brag on you. I'm gonna let you kind of,
Yeah, but he's also a guy who's grown with his team. It's
Right.
like he had a team from the youth and just kind of grew with them, and maybe there's been some go here, go right, go left, but he's grown with his team, and it went from like 6th grade, 7th grade. Now they're high school kids,
right.
And so. With that comes a wealth of knowledge, comes a wealth of wisdom. So it's going to be good to have him and have his perspective on where the game was before and how the game has changed, because there's so many dynamics that's changed the game from when he started until now. So it's going to be exciting and interesting.
Yeah, so Coop, man, just introduce yourself a little bit and just say, what you been, what you gonna do, and got a kid playing. Just let the Baseline Talk podcast listeners, get a little bit more familiar with yourself.
Okay, I can do that. So I think what I'll do is I'll just walk you through my timeline just in general, and try to cover the philosophy of what we started with and how we kind of walked it through, because we purposefully carried the teams forward. And so my daughter started playing basketball at age 12, which she was practicing from age 3 to age 12, but we never played any organized basketball. She was a soccer player. And so I started off in soccer purposefully. I wanted to, dorsiflex the ankles, the tendons there. We seriously thought about that. And hand-eye coordination. 2 things I started on with was that. And then probably earlier than she needed to, I started on video games because you know how the joysticks work on the video games. I wanted her to learn her hand-eye coordination.
Basketball video games or just
to be honest with you, Call of Duty. Parents out there, do as I say, not as I do. But she did. So really, like about 6 years old, 7 years old, she was really adept at Call of Duty. Like she would stay at the leaderboard. We would go out. Now, if you know the Call of Duty space, it was very toxic. So she could never play with headphones. But since I was sitting right next to her, we would basically be a 2-man crew, even if we were in a 10-man crew.
But as you were doing it, it was a vision. It was a plan.
Yeah, there was a plan.
As you were doing this.
Yeah, I was teaching her. When she first started, it was a headache because the first year probably her gun was always up in the air. And I tried to start on basketball, but she didn't like it. But what she did like was soccer. So the 2 games that I grew up on was soccer, FIBA soccer, and Call of Duty. And she eventually grew to love basketball, so her thing now is basketball. But it was really just about hand-eye coordination and then just understanding situations at the speed of light, because disseminating information was the thing for us. And in probably about 2016, I actually started with John. So I would practice
DC
with
Queens?
Yeah, me and John started this thing.
Shout out.
Yeah, John Thomas.
It almost seems like every kid starts out with DC Queens, because there's very few organizations that you can get in second grade and third
Right,
grade,
right. He does
and
a
John is
remarkable
one of
job.
it,
Right.
and he does a good job with
Oh
those
yeah,
young kids.
I tried to get him to take off with me at first. He wouldn't do it. He didn't trust the shoe companies.
No.
And I would tell him all the time because he would always tell me. I mean, he even when I met John was already he was already successful at what he did. And he had already had a lot of teams and he was already planted.
his niche.
That was his niche. And he had no cares for high school. His whole thing was, what we talk about all the time, development and exposure. And he felt very comfortable that he could develop them because he was doing that. And the exposure thing he was figuring out. And I say that because my daughter would train with him. So his DC Orange team that ended up winning AAU twice as a grassroots group, my daughter trained with them. But he wouldn't let her play. He wouldn't let her play because she couldn't come to all the practices because she was still playing soccer. But he would let her practice. Yeah. And so she would train with him and she would train me, even though she was training soccer. And she was really good at soccer. She was top 25 in two divisions. I mean, in two positions, forward and center back. And being as big as she is and as fast as she is, she really stood out on the soccer field. And so at age 12, she came to me and she said, Daddy, I want to focus on basketball this year. And mind you, we had been training, we just had never played. And so I took over to DC Queens and I let her play. And she started playing with Jessie. So the moms that you all had on, she started with Kayla, Kayla and the mom that was in, her daughter. Okay. But Pro Skills, I found out that Pro Skills was starting. They had gotten the EYBL license for the girls. And so one of my buddies, Odell, told me about it. And so we took both our daughters over there, Paris Bradley and Micah. Yeah. And so they worked out and they made the team. They had a little tryout. They made the team. And so I had no plans on coaching basketball. I had coached my nephews 10 years prior because I had spent the last 10 years coaching Micah in basketball. So, but 10 years prior, I had spent that time coaching my nephews through. And once they got through, I was done. But then I had Micah, and she wanted to, and I knew I was going to raise her in soccer. I knew that. Right. And so I started there. But basketball had taken that time between her being 3 and 12 off. Right. And I had no intentions on coaching again. And we went to the gym one day. We had paid up for the year. And so did some of the other parents on the team, and went to the gym one day, and the gym door was locked. And we couldn't get in. Apparently there was a dispute between the guy that was coaching the team and the owner of Pro Skills. And for whatever reason, and so the ASC at the time, it's called something that's called the SWAC now, but it's ASC at the time, they had locked us out. We went to practice, couldn't get in, and so I'm like, I spend money, Right. So that Monday, I go in and I talk to the guy that runs the program, that runs the facility, and he explained to me that the bill was due. It was a good hefty amount, and I was like, well, how do we make this right and pay the bill? And so we had a conversation with the parents of the team, and they wanted to continue the season, and they were like, you coach. I mean, you played, you coached. Do you want to coach? I'm like, no. I said, the only way I'll do this is if every one of y'all 100% commit. I said, because I think about basketball differently. It's going to be different, and so I need everyone to sign in if I'm going to do it. And so they all agreed, and so we finished the season. And but
what grade were they?
At this time, they were 5th grade.
Okay.
They were 5th grade.
And they all pitched in and paid the bill.
No, I paid the bill. Okay. Jeff Webster, you still owe me money. You still have not paid me my money.
Hey, you still need to pay the man Jeff Webster.
Hey,
the bill's still out there now.
The bill, outstanding bill.
Hey.
A man stepped up and paid the bill for Pro Skills.
Hey, listen, I love them. I love TJ. Man, I think TJ does a fabulous job. Me and Rooks are buddies. We have a good working relationship. And so I paid it. We finished the season. Okay. The entire time that I was coaching that group, Calvin Evans was with CyFair. He and Rich, who now is with Texas U, because Calvin saw that I had a
talented team.
Yeah, my team was talented, but I'll tell you that 5 of the kids on that team no longer play basketball. Wow. And so
that typically happens when
that typically happens.
Why? Is it height? Is it disinterest? I mean, like
they fell out of the program when I moved. And so I don't know why they discontinued playing.
Are they still playing basketball? They're not playing
no,
basketball?
they're not playing basketball. But we ended up with that team going to the primetime championship. So in the 5th grade, in this market, maybe in primetime were the big tournaments for grassroots.
Right. Yeah, most definitely.
And so I don't know if it was the process as much as was anything else, but we were good enough to make it there. But the big thing there, the reason why this is important in this part of the process is because I created 2 relationships that to me became invaluable moving forward. My relationship with John Thomas, because John was the one that gave my daughter the first start. Mm-hmm. And the only reason I moved her over was because she couldn't play with the Orange team because they were already situated. And Pro Skills was on the shoe circuit. And so I had been telling John the entire time my daughter was practicing with him that you need to try to get a contract. John said, no, I don't need a contract. And I just felt like going forward, where the game looked like it was going to go, that was going to be important. It was going to be important at the back end. Now, and I understood John's reasons. John was the developer of the talent, and we believed that the ring maker, the king maker, is the one that's developing the talent. But because of the way the system is working, you have to have an outlet source. You have to have a place that meets with the coaches that make the decisions on where the kids go. And at that time, Pro Skills and not Pro Skills, but Pro Skills was just coming on the scene, and so was Jermaine with Drive Nation. You know, the stalwarts were DFW Elite and CyFair. And so what I understood about the system at that time was by the time a kid became a sophomore or junior, they were going to end up with Corey or they were going to end up with Earl. Earl Allen. You know, because that was the outlet that had centralized the college coaches. And you could see, if you understood the game, that college coaches' time was becoming more and more busy, and it was going to become even more busy as more investment and more eyes came onto the game. At least that's what I thought. So Calvin was hounding me. And he was hounding me because Calvin had 2 teams at the time. He had Gisela Maul and Amarachi Kempson and Maddie Cox. He had that group. But his daughter was playing on the 24 team. And so Calvin's idea was, let's merge your team with my team. And at that time, I mean, I understood it. Calvin was looking for someone that he trusted, that he thought the process was a good process for his daughter, which he should have been looking at for his daughter. And he wanted to focus on the 23s. And so for a year, I'm not interested. But what I was really doing was just surveying the situation and trying to understand what made the most sense. When Pro Skills, we got locked out of the gym, the director of the girls' grassroots for Pro Skill, he was also the coach of my girls' team, my daughter's team that I had ended up started coaching. Jeff decided, I didn't have a relationship with Jeff at the time, so Jeff decided to go with Earl Rooks because him and Earl had a relationship. And so when Earl came in, Earl wanted to create a curriculum. He wanted every team to play the same. And I didn't have a problem with that idea. I just saw basketball different than Earl did. You know, Earl was more of the traditional run sets, play half-court basketball. You know, the tempo was going to be slow and deliberate. I had no problem with that. It's just that's not how I saw the game of basketball. So I decided to go ahead and meet with – Calvin was wanting me to meet with Earl Allen. And so I went ahead and decided to meet with Earl Allen. We met in Westlake. We had a meeting at the bar after a meeting that he had with Nike. And I gave him 5 things. I gave him 5 things that I would need, to be comfortable enough to bring my girls over. And he agreed to them. And so we set off on our mission at that point. And at that time, we took both teams, merged them together. And eventually, by 2017, I had kind of identified who I thought the top players were. And so I split the teams up and made a red team and a white team. But I knew that was not going to last.
Always gonna ruffle some feathers.
It's always. Cool. Always. But my vision at that time.
Right.
My vision.
It was the best decision.
Yeah.
But a lot of times parents don't understand it.
Now, help us in the timeline. What grade are they in 2017?
At this point, we're 6th grade going into the 7th.
Okay.
So it's that summer between our 6th grade and our 7th grade year. And so I knew my vision clear in my mind. So it goes back to the philosophy of how I think about basketball because it's untraditional and it's different than what everyone else thinks about. I knew the Nike platform was 30-second shot clock, and I knew we played 32 minutes. I mean, we understand that. And so what I started trying...
Simple math. Now, I know where you're going with this.
Yep. And so my goal was to create opportunities, as many as I could. And I've always felt that if you're going to take 10 kids to the gym, 10 kids to play. It's development. Over the winning, it's about teaching them life skills through the game. We're supposed to be developing the young people. And so I had devised this process of playing a while back with my uncle in Kansas. And so so I started instilling it. For us, it's 32 minutes, 94 feet. That's what we're thinking about. Defensively, we all recognize that, and we identify with, you want to win championships, you have to defend. But more important than that, if you want to create continuity between relationships, you have to give them something to buy into that is a connected concept. It's easier to get them to understand and identify with each other. Because if you can't get them to play and identify with each other, you're not going to have success anyway. I don't care how good they are. If each individual is really good, but each individual doesn't recognize the other individual, you just get one-on-one basketball every possession. And the objective is to try to stack possessions on top of possessions. And so that's what you're trying to teach. So the first thing I taught them was what we call the shell concept, to teach them how to force the ball to certain areas of the floor. Those areas of the floor that are the hardest to process basketball with. If you come across the timeline and you pick the basketball up, I tell them there's a 99, we call it the 99% line. It's usually about, in the girls' game, it's about 21, 22 feet. No kid is really that accurate past that point. As a matter of fact, the only time a shot is taken past that point is a desperation heave to the basket. So we're going to play that 99% line. Our objective is to not let anyone play the middle of the floor. We're going to force the balls to what we call the idiot boxes. The one idiot box is the corner right at where the end line, where the center line, where you pass the center line. Because once you pass the center line, you can no longer use anyone that's in the back court. You only can use the kids in the front court and the corner. Because the hardest place to play the ball out of is the corner. So,
what's your educational background?
My educational background is I have a JD. I have a criminal justice degree, but the criminal justice back in the day was pre-law.
Right.
I'm that old. I have an undergraduate in finance and accounting. I have a master's in finance and accounting. I have a master's in project management and a master's in information systems.
Okay, so I'm beginning to put all this together. I knew it had to be some mathematics.
Yes.
In it. You know what I'm saying? Because it's a lot of analytics in what you're speaking right now.
I'll go one step further, Corey. There's 32 minutes in a game. If you play to a shot clock, then you are roughly basically saying that if both sides play to the shot clock,
30
yeah, if everybody played to
possessions?
32 apiece, 64 possessions. There's 1920 seconds in the game.
Okay.
And so now you just decide. So we'll flip to the offense real quick so people can understand how I think about the game. So now there's 32 possessions. We want all 64.
Right.
Because it's 32 apiece.
So you don't want it even though.
No, I don't want it even. Yep. And how we think about that is, what if we tried to score in 10 seconds? If we could average 10 seconds every time.
At least attempts.
Yeah, attempts. And because it's all about a shot attempts. If you look at a girls' basketball game, it's about a shot attempts. So now you're at 320 of opportunities available to you if you take your 32 and play 10 seconds. If we're only 40% effective,
your number of possessions.
Yeah.
It's going to it's going to outpace your opponents.
Yes.
Because they're working for the great shot.
Yes.
And you're at 10 seconds. So all your possessions at 10 seconds is going to give you 3 more possessions than your opponent.
Yep.
And if you're at 40%, even at 40%, it's better than the next man's 80%. Yep. But you don't get 80%.
Right. Because most girls only shoot only 50%. The average team possession of shots made is 47.
Right.
The average score of a girl's high school basketball game, summer or winter, 52.5. Look all this stuff up.
Okay. Are these analytics, I mean, how do you process steals and turnovers?
They're super important in our position. They're super. So in our process, we want 80 shot possessions a game. We want 35 from 3. We want 30 turnovers. That's what we're playing to. So if you do the math, if we shoot 35, say we shoot 35 threes. If we only shoot 30%, we still gonna make 10.
30% is high though.
No, not if you are training to do it. Okay. So, but think about it this way.
Some of the team's best are right around 33 to 36% NCAA.
I have 5 kids on the 17U CyFair EYBL team that shoot over 45% from 3 for their summer career.
I like to see those numbers.
Okay.
Okay. In the
You got- you got-
EYBL, there's 5 kids.
You got to think about
on
who
CyFair.
You got to think about who we're
Shooting
talking
for-
about. You got to think about who shooting. We're talking about Alan McDowell. We're talking about Anal Foy. We're talking about Leah Chavez
From 3.
From three.
That's amazing.
But
Right.
you got
You made an excellent point because when you do these analytics, I mean, sometimes you have to think about athleticism and you have to think
Right.
about
I
the,
agree. I follow you.
the dynamic of the game.
Right.
If these players are playing against this, it can equate. But if these players are, say Chavez is playing against Odyssey Sims and Foy is playing against Angel Reese, so when you have athleticism involved,
You gotta have something to
things get tougher.
right.
Things balance.
Right.
So, on an elite scale,
Yeah.
it's kind of where I want to understand the analytics. I understand the analytics.
you got to remember.
DC Queens.
Yeah, you got
little girl.
Yeah, you got to remember. You got to remember. For us, it's development. It's development. So the wins are just inherent for us.
Right.
We're winning. We win,
Right.
but it's not our focus because at the end of the day, the other difference for us is we're teaching basketball. We're not teaching plays.
Right.
So we teach first break, secondary break.
Yeah.
And 90% of the game for our team, if you watch my teams play, 90% of the game is first break, secondary break. So for us, as soon as we secure the ball, whether it's a turnover or whether it's a steal, we're forming.
Yeah.
So our play starts right there. We spend most of the time in our game playing in between the three-point line. And so for us, we are okay with taking three-point shots. And again, the 30% is the team goal. It's not an individual goal. So to shoot 30% as a team, that's not that hard to do if your focus is to do it.
Right.
And so and then when we get into the half court, everything is motion continuity. So we're always passing is ball movement, people movement, space and pace.
Right.
So that's what we're thinking. So at the end of the day, it's really the concept for us that is because here's what we're forcing. You have to be fit. Like we're going to take
Physical fit.
Yeah. Because if you think about what basketball was designed, Naismith was a physical education teacher looking for an opportunity to have a sport that he could keep the kids active at a high pace when it got cold outside. That's how he invented the game.
Okay.
And then we just started monetizing it from there.
So, Coach, did you have any kind of drawback? I see what you're coming because I got a math background. I understand that I'm gonna shoot more threes than you, and although all I got to do is shoot a better percentage of threes than you shoot. No, I got to shoot a lesser percentage, but not terrible, of threes than you shoot twos, and I'm going to win.
Off the bus.
As long as I'm shooting more threes
Off the
than
bus.
you shooting twos.
Off the bus.
Right,
So
yeah.
so put it together.
I'm counting by 3 and you counting by 2.
Yeah.
That's what
So
it boils down to.
yeah, because if you think about what we're doing is if you really do the math, a 3-point shot is 50% more than a 2. If you do the math,
Exactly what it is.
It is. And so what you're really trying to do is I'm trying to average more points, more value per shot than you.
Right.
If I'm shooting more threes than you're shooting twos, I'm averaging 2.7, 2.8 points per shot.
Quality, yeah.
And you're focusing on 2. Plus, you're slowing the game down
Right.
to get what you need.
Get the better 2 points.
Yeah. And
attempt.
and I'm playing full
Right.
court defense, so I'm not even letting you get into whatever you spent your practice working on.
I can't remember the coach at the University of Arkansas. He kind of has that same.
Louisville, Sam has it.
Yeah.
Sam has it. Arkansas has it. I tell you where it came from because we're old enough to understand this. Billy Tubbs,
Yeah.
Nolan Richardson.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Nolan wasn't a 3-point.
No, he wasn't.
He
But
was a shot attempt.
But he was,
defense.
but his defense.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying? So what you got to understand is it's the entire piece. It's not just one or the other. Because you got to remember, we're averaging 30 turnovers a game. So
That's
so
Right.
I can't even tell you the last time I won a rebound battle.
Yeah,
so if you
I
talk
know
to a traditional coach, they're always trying to win the rebound.
Right.
Because they're playing the game off the backboard.
Right.
We're not. We're
Right.
playing the game in space.
Right.
So for us, if you win the rebound, okay, you still got to get it up court.
Right.
Because what we're doing from a connectivity point on defense is as soon as you get the ball, my second defender, my third defender, my fourth defender, we understand where we're shape-shifting the floor.
Yeah.
So we don't believe in you coming down and then you got your basketball and my defender is in front of you, but your ball is flowing from left to right. Then we're not playing defense.
I get that. Dude. Great and everything. How much buy-in does that take? Wait a minute. No, let me rephrase that. Mm-hmm. Buy-in. Obviously, you had it with the teams that you came up the pipe with. Mm-hmm. You know, but to sustain that, that's almost an organizational buy-in. You get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So
and athletic buy-in.
And the athletic buy-in, right.
Because basically, with what you said, you got to have athletic players that can D up.
Not really.
Or you got to have players that know how to play defense.
No, you got to have players that's skilled.
Or take care of the ball, one or the other.
And shoot the ball well.
There you go. So now let's go back to the start of basketball. We were talking about this earlier. When we invented the game of basketball, you couldn't dribble. You couldn't dribble simply because the ball had seams. The ball was round. It didn't bounce. The ball was round just like a football. So the early stages of the game was about passing the ball. You could bounce past it. That's about all you could do because you couldn't control the dribble because it had a seam in it. Yeah. And so we didn't change the basketball's color until we got to probably about the 1900s, the first part of the 20th century. So the first part of the game was just passing. Now, scores in the early days was 7-3, 6-1. It was when we got to marketing the game and we started capitalizing, monetizing the game, so to speak, when the NCAA jumped in about the 46 period, 1946 and 50, when we started organizing when the YMCA ended up running amok with it. And from this perspective, the game was really violent. It was really physical. And so we've always been trying to figure out how to take the physicality out of the game. And so when the NCAA jumped in, it wasn't the NCAA at first, it was the IAA US, and then it eventually evolved. But my whole point is, when we first started playing the game, and as the game evolved and started becoming more modern during the 70s, we played faster then. We play slower now than we played then because the game, to play fast, you have to pass the basketball. So one of the biggest things that we teach offensively is we don't dribble the ball up the court. We are playing the ball, passing it into the second level. When you watch one of my teams play, we spend more time with we call it 10 toes. We spend more time with free 10 toes around the three-point line than most people because we're playing into it. Yeah. So most of the time when we're shooting three-point ball, it's a wide open shot. Now when you add the ability to win your 1v1, that's just the extra element. But you don't need it to be successful in our system.
Okay, so I got a real tough question, and it may vary between people. What is the most important aspect when you evaluate a player? Do you feel like being a great passer is more important or being a great ball handler is more important? Which one of the two is the most important?
For me, it just depends on the entire set group you have. Like, if you had to, I had to choose one.
If you had to narrow one down,
can the kid that can either one of the kids?
Which kid would you?
Obviously, the kid that can matriculate the ball, I'm going to want if I have to make the decision.
So that kind of goes. Does it go against your philosophy? No,
because we need the ball. So think about the game. So let's do this. Let's take one of my teams, and I'm gonna give them shout outs as I do this.
You saying the passer is more important than the ball handler, or the ball handler is more important than the passer?
To answer the question straight up, which one I would rather have if I had to pick one, I'm gonna take the ball handler because they can matriculate.
There you go.
But if you're asking me in the team setting, it depends on who else I got around them. Because you got to remember, it's a 5-on-5 game. And so it's what you have in the gym. You have to build something for what you got.
To me, I feel like it depends on who you're playing against. Because even though your team is a great passing team, if you got athletic defenders that can deny, that can
cause havoc on the ball,
get in your space and deny you the basketball, then which
I'm gonna take the passers.
You still take passes over ball handlers.
The reason I say that is because let's take our shell defense for example.
Mm-hmm.
There's two different philosophies depending on if the team is a ball handling team or if the team is a passing team. If you're super aggressive as a defense and you're very reactive.
Yeah, just denying just in not letting your player.
Yeah. All five have to be that type because first of all, I have a ref, so you only can play me so physical because I have a ref. Secondly, ball movement, people movement, space and pace. So we're going to spread out, and then we're just going to start running and screening everything.
Okay, well then
off the ball.
See, that's a different element.
Yeah,
screening.
Yeah,
it's a different element.
But see, that's the thing about our process. You got to remember, as soon as we get the ball, we're running plays. Like it's no get to the half court line and then set up and look over at me. Like my kids, it's no different than. I'll use this analogy. There's no different than the Los Angeles Rams when they were, when it was Isaac Holt and Kurt Warren. The key was all of the crossing patterns. The key was at every level, the first level, the second level, the third level, someone has a responsibility to either carry a defender, cross a defender, move people.
So here's my question. You got John Stockton here, passer, mover, and you got Ja here. You know what I'm saying? So
I'm taking John. Ja sticks to the ball.
John.
Yeah, because Ja sticks to the ball too much.
Okay, right. Okay.
Memphis doesn't play any.
Makes sense.
They don't win. Their win-or-loss differential is any different with Ja on the ball, with Ja on the court or not. Like people argue, okay, a regular season is different than playoffs. They still lose without him in the playoffs. He's a dynamic player. I love Ja. I'm paying money to go watch him play.
Right.
But when you think about the game, you got to remember, we're talking about the development level of basketball. So I don't get too caught up in the wins or losses. We do win, but I don't get caught up in it.
So now we got that fine line in development and, we all in that space. We got those kids that, how can I say it's well for you? You got you got these highly ranked kids.
Yes.
Just highly talented and in the gym, working on the game, threes, ball handling and all of that. So how do you kind of balance all of that out such that, a Chavez, who's the number one point guard in the country, remains the number one point guard in the country, which requires stats,
And also, she kind of requires the ball in her hand.
She kind of requires the ball in her hand and so forth.
She doesn't. The one, and this is my biggest complaint with the way the 17s are processed. I don't want to spend a lot of time being negative about them. It's different than the philosophy that we brought her up with. And shout out to Shani, because at the end of the day, her dad, like she's who she is because he poured into her who she is. But you got to think about it. The best thing that she does is she puts the ball in the hole. And because she doesn't need the ball in her hand. To me, it makes really no sense when everyone's focused on the ball, and the one thing that she does is when her hand is free from 25 feet in, she's pretty much automatic.
Right.
And so she's better used in motion, in activity, because she's like everything about the game from fitness, like she has what I call all five tools. Her fitness level is elite. Her left hand, right hand is elite. Her shot is elite. Her handle's elite. Her IQ is elite, and her work ethic is like.
I agree.
And so with a kid like that, you do her disservice if you're spending 32 minutes with her on the basketball. What you're really doing is limiting what she is. You're limiting her ability to impact the game, and you're duressing her when you don't have to.
So that's what I kind of alluded to when I asked the question, and I get what you're saying. It's that hard to implement organizational wide, and you kind of said it's doing a disservice to the 17U team. It sounded like this is something that kids are brought up to pipe learning, and as they get from one level to the next, they're losing what's been taught to them.
I think That's been an excellent question. I think that what is happening right now in the game is that the adults are in the way.
Right.
I think there's too many adults that are making the situation about themselves. We're getting away from it's turning so monetized and it's turning so social and it's so political because everyone's chasing likes that everyone wants to prove. At the end of the day, what we're supposed to get in this for and what we were doing was teaching life skills through the game of basketball. And so what's happening now is I need to show you that I'm good at this. And so that's what you get when I call it 50-50 ball. When you slow down the opportunity, when you slow down the pace, what you're doing is eliminating opportunity. Let's go back to football in the state of Texas. Before the 90s, everybody just ran the football. If you were from here, you understand that. Well, we didn't the rosters were still the same. We were still the same dudes in the same neighborhoods. And then overnight, guys started coming into the region and we overnight started throwing the ball everywhere. What happened was all those kids that were sitting on the bench behind that one running back that was getting the ball 100 times a game ended up becoming a flanker, a wideout, a slot receiver. And so that's the difference between how we think about basketball and how most think about basketball. And I call it 50-50 basketball because if you look at the rules of the game have evolved to where we want to take advantage of the space of the floor. But if you watch 90% of the basketball, especially in Texas high school basketball, it's no shot clock and everybody walks the ball down the court. This coach is going to run their plays. This coach is going to run their plays. And it becomes 50-50 ball. Can my kids run their plays better than your kids? And at the end of the day, whoever can do it best wins. What are we teaching them? Are we teaching them to play or are we teaching them your plays?
Okay. Well, think about this. That philosophy, wins, championship pedigree, does that okay, now when you get to a collegiate perspective, because there's different philosophies at the collegiate level, does that philosophy say, oh, you got to go to Stanford? You can't go over here to South Carolina because they break down type team. Texas A&M, breakdown ability. So what I've taught you from 6th grade to 12th grade fits for maybe Iowa State, Stanford, or whatever. Because if there's a college that want that, Chavez, okay, put the ball in the hands, bring the pick and roll, let me scoop. Because sometimes I see Chavez videos when she highlights this, create space, threes. You know what I'm saying? Opposed to, I done pass it, got a screen, come off the double stagger,
get it back,
catch. Wow.
Yeah.
It's for that system, is that the type of college that you have to attend? Because that's
so too. So think about it fully. Think about what we're talking about. We're teaching the kid to just play basketball. There are no plays. So you're having to read and react. Every situation is different because when we get the ball, now we're organizing. So we're going to spread. Someone's going to own the run down the middle, and then someone owns both levels, the wide down to the corners and the wide that's going to be what we call the release. And so because every basketball possession is different, we're attacking how you are standing. We're attacking how you're positioned. If you spend no time working on transition, you're really in trouble. Even if you're working on transitional break, you're going to attack where we are in proximity to where the ball is. But we're cutting off what we see. So I answer that question to stay it this way. If you could play fast, you could play slow. You got to remember, if you are able to stop us in our first break and our secondary break, we're playing motion continuity. So the entire time we're playing basketball. And so you fit in any situation because here's the deal. At the end of the day, what we're really teaching you is relationships. Okay. So you have the basketball, and I'll give it to you simple because, we all are in the basketball space. When we want everything that we do in our warm-ups, they're not just traditional drills. They're drills that are simulating what you're going to see in the way we play basketball. So I'll give you two people in a basketball. If I have the basketball and I'm on the left side and my partner's on the right side, I'm more than likely either going to throw the ball to my partner and brush my partner. where I'm doing a brush screen up as we're running up the court. That's the 2-man relationship. So I'm going to throw it to you, and then I'm going to brush to be a screen so you can run off of me. Or you're going to come brush me as I'm dribbling, okay? It doesn't matter who the third person is, because what we just did was I got a brush screen off for you. Now I'm going to circle into an area where I'm looking for free space, and I'm dribbling into an area that I want free space. Yes. If I don't like your option and I don't like my option, I'm going to throw it to the third person. Now we have 3 people in the relationship. We already know automatically that's a pass screen away. So if I throw it to you here, I'm going to screen the one that just brushed for me. She's popping back to the ball. I can go screen someone else, or I can jump this free space. So by the time you have even set your defense up, we're already running off each other, and we're getting free space while you're setting up. My point is this. We're teaching you how to play basketball all the time, and we're teaching you relationships and relationship responsibility. So we're always looking for a good quality shot. Right. And what it really does at the end, it teaches you what you have to have. And do you know this? It teaches what you have to have. Everyone in college was an all-star where they came from, especially at the D1 level. You're already learning how to process yourself like someone that knows how to play with other elite kids. You're learning that now. And we were talking earlier, I was telling you, this is one of the reasons why early on in 5th and 6th grade, I was already taking around the country. Right. Because all of the intangible stuff I wanted them to have as well, learning how to get out of bed on their own, have an itinerary early, how to process yourself as an elite basketball player, even in 5th and 6th grade.
And I think, that's why I kind of said, you very remarkable, very intelligent-minded brother, basketball-wise, included. And, that's something that not just one team and an organization should benefit from. That what you have in your brain between both ears should be, taught from 5th grade, and improved all the way up to the face of the team, face of the organization, and that's really, that's why I brought my kid, the DFW Elite. I don't know how long you've been in this space, but there was a time in which it didn't matter what DFW Elite kids you seen one, you seen them all. You seen one team, you seen them all. It was almost, I think I heard a parent from Oklahoma said they dared you to dribble the ball. Like that's like a freaking insult. Yeah. You dribble the ball.
We gonna D your ass up.
And that didn't matter if it was the DFW Elite black team, the white team, the T-Jack team, the gold. Yeah, you catching it all the time. You
under duress.
It's organizational,
all the
wide.
Time. Yep.
From Brittany Griner to the 5th grader. It's top to bottom. And that's the reason why the program was so freaking powerful. It was a
curriculum.
Hey, it was curriculum. It was a curriculum. It was taught from the day you was born to the day, you went to the WNBA.
Yes.
You your ass up,
Yes.
And I think what you're telling me is awesome.
Thanks.
It just needs to be a organizational-wide curriculum concept. If you see one team that you in the program, i.e. a CyFair, 5th grade, all the way to the CyFair 17U National. It should be something that they're all benefiting from, because otherwise it moves with this one team, and maybe until Coop is around, and if Coop isn't coaching that team, then it's a totally different philosophy. The identity gets lost. And you're a very intelligent brother and everything, and it's something that like hundreds of kids really should be benefiting from. I get it. Yeah. I understand shot attempts. A 3 is a 50% more value than a 2. Let's funnel on defense. Funnel you over to this geographical part of the court that's more challenging. Let's keep you 21 feet out, because girl shot percentage dips, at 22 and 23 and X amount of percent, whereas at 5 and 6% is kind of up there. So as I say that, what are your thoughts on the space that the role that the shoe companies, the Nikes, the Adidas, Under Armours, and I know you've been with the Nike. What role do they play, good or bad, especially in the last 5 to 7 years with the development?
We used it. At the end of the day, it was, John and I just had a conversation last week, and he was coming around because he could now see what I was kind of envisioning at the time. At the time, it was premier brand. You had to have it because we talked about this earlier. The premium brand was needed because there was no one even paying attention. John talked about it all the time. No one still pays attention to girls basketball except for us that are in it.
Right.
But it is growing and it is an investment vehicle for basketball in general. But at the time, it was needed. I believed at that time was that the tides were going to change, and we are actually in that window, if you ask me. And I'll talk about how, if you look at the numbers, it's telling you that. At the time, if you were blessed to make an EYBL roster, because they were premium and limited, and you knew that those rosters was going to play in front of the college coaches, you had an advantage. And so it created an advantage for those that had those licenses. If you look at just the last 2 years, we've created the 40 Select. Under Armour's in the marketplace with several teams. Adidas is in the market with several teams, and then we increased the number of teams that had the EYBL license. But what
No. We changed them. We didn't increased.
Well, we gave.
It was always 32. It's still 32.
No. I mean the number of teams, the number of clubs that had the license. At first it was just you and Earl that had it, and now Jermaine has it and Jeff has it on the girl side.
Yeah, and that's true. At a certain point.
Yeah, in 2016.
Oh, you're talking about in this region?
Yeah, in this region.
Okay,
in this region.
okay.
No, it's always 32. But
Yeah.
I'm mainly focused on this region because I'm making the point about this region and for the girls and the opportunities that we've expanded. Because at the time, all you had was those,
DFW and CyFair.
all you had was those.
But I'm trying to understand one thing. You may increase the number of teams, which does not, in my opinion, increase the number of opportunities.
Right, and that's what I'm going to speak. That's what I'm saying.
It changes the dynamic.
It does.
It does.
It thins
because
out. It thins
because
it
you
out.
got to understand, Corey, before it was DFW
Right.
Elite and CyFair.
Right.
If you was in Dallas,
Right.
you played with DFW Elite.
Or CyFair.
If you
in Houston?
really, if you was in Dallas,
yeah.
you played with DFW
Right.
Elite.
Right.
If you was in Houston,
Right.
Play with Earl.
you played with CyFair.
Right.
So
For the kid.
the talent was all in Dallas.
Right.
DFW had all Dallas
Right.
talent.
Right.
Right.
And then what he's saying is when you bring in pro skills
Right.
and Drive Nation now,
You have more supply.
it
You have more
divides.
rosters.
It divides it.
Well,
a
you have
little
more.
bit.
We just talking quantity.
Yeah,
there's more.
it does.
There's more quantity available now because there's more roster spots. But what I'm saying is because we were able to attract the attention of the entire basketball space. We were just talking about this earlier with the ladies.
Right.
Now, if you look at what Joey does with his tournaments, what you do with your tournaments, and what Ohio basketball, Chris and Tucker doing with their tournaments, you don't have to leave this region to be seen by a college coach.
Well, no, I think that's true. But that was true 10 years ago,
Not at
20 years ago.
but-
No. 15 years ago. It was true 15 years ago.
But everyone was only concerned about those EYBL letters because they were. If that's what the market was. Who was sending the most kids to the D1 programs?
Well,
it's definitely DFW Elite was.
DFW and
Yeah,
CyFair.
DFW Elite is still 400 plus.
Right, that's what I'm
Which
saying.
Nobody is
Right.
in the ballpark. of
That's what I'm
that, right?
saying. That's what I'm saying. So
Recently, the dynamics has changed.
Well, that's
I
where
think
I was
CyFair
going.
might be sending the most.
No.
now.
CyFair is still sending, like DFW Elite was sending 30, 35. And
What year?
huh?
What year?
From the 2010s to 2016.
Yeah.
You know
of
what I'm saying?
Of course.
Right. So
Of course.
and that's what I kind of go back when I say you can add as many EYBL teams as you want. The landing spot, the opportunities don't increase because they have made more college institutions. So the same number of scholarships haven't
Yeah,
increased.
No, that's not what we're saying.
Right.
But the teams that they pull from has changed.
Right. So what I'm basically saying is that hasn't changed.
Right.
But because I'm not looking at it from that perspective.
Okay.
You got to remember, I'm looking at it from the opportunity for the kid. For the kid, all they had was these limited opportunities to make that were guaranteeing their ability to be seen by the coaches. If you take that in respect for this, now we have the Elite 40. Now
That's kind of like, and I don't want to, remember I said we were sending 30 to 35 a year. Well, that top team didn't have 30 kids on the roster.
Right.
That's because
the point
of
we're
the
making.
dynamics too.
Right, but it was still 30 going.
It's 30 going, yeah.
It's still 30.
It might be coming from Drive Nation.
No. It was all from DFW Elite.
No, but no, we understand that part.
So now, you fast forward 8 years, that number from DFW Elite has gone down to 8.
Mm-hmm.
But the number in the marketplace
30 are still going.
30
Right, that's
still
the point we're
going.
making.
So 10 are going.
Yes.
They owe the CyFair, or Drive Nation, or 10 to Texas United, or Texas
Right.
or Pro Skill, but
Right.
it's still 30.
No,
it
that
hasn't
absolutely.
increased.
No,
Absolutely.
that's the point we're making.
Right, okay.
What the point we're making is, but because that it has spread itself out,
Right.
I'm going one step further.
Yeah.
Because it spread itself out, now it don't matter if you're in an independent.
Right.
It don't matter
I
if
see
you're
what
with
you're
it. Yeah, it don't matter if it's a shoe company. If you are developing, if you're developing and you have like we're talking about, you have a
Right.
good curriculum that you can see
Right.
that is actually teaching the girls not just life lessons, but it's
Right.
teaching them how to actually play basketball. It don't matter where you play.
It don't matter where you play. You're right.
You go
Select
in
40,
this region.
Elite
Yes.
40, Adidas,
Yep.
Under Armour,
Yep. Any 2K that Chris and Tucker.
2K.
Yep.
It doesn't matter.
And that's the point
Right,
that I'm
right.
making is that when you look at where we are now in this marketplace, for the kids,
Yeah.
we've grown more opportunities.
Yeah. I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm
And
100%.
that's all I'm saying. And the parents need to understand that
Right,
because I
right.
think that one of my biggest challenges and one of the reasons I started pursuing it in this manner was because I thought two things. I thought that I could see that as the transfer portal kept evolving,
Right.
and even though people were denying, I'm not going to use that thing, you ain't got no choice but to use it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because you can rebuild your roster. Like if you're really good at what you do,
Yeah.
Moki just did it.
Right.
She took 9, played 9, and won a championship. So
Right.
that validated it for everyone else. But what it also is forcing the college coach to do is they have to engage. They feel like they have to engage with the kid at a younger age, and they have to create relationships earlier. So what it has done is pushed down this need for the parent group to be more knowledgeable
Right.
about how the space works in high school. Because grassroots, we all know grassroots is totally different than the high school game. But a lot of our parents are wasting that sophomore year, that freshman year, because they're not schooled on how it works.
So Damion, that was kind of like what we talked about in an episode earlier. I can't remember which one, but you're right. You don't. We're so lucky. You don't have to lead Dallas.
Yes.
You do not
Blessed.
have to lead Dallas. You know what I'm saying?
You don't.
More so today. Ohio basketball ain't even got to come in here and put on the tournament. There's enough bright minds in the state of Texas and Dallas to put on the tournament. We were doing it way before Ohio basketball came into this space. Texas don't need Ohio basketball to showcase the talent in Texas. It's just no more than the state of Ohio needs Texas to come in and run an event. It is. And we're working on that. I'm the first one to tell you, like Ohio basketball, whoever it is, 2024, you got competition.
But that goes to the crux of what the problem is. We were hitting on that a minute ago. That goes to what the crux of the problem is and why I no longer ride with CyFair. Because our values were no longer aligned. Like it worked when our value was aligned. And me personally, I'm just going to speak on me. what I got into it for was to grow opportunities for the young people and just teach life skills through the game. The winning was just inherent because we felt like what we were teaching was going to win, because at the end of the day, what we were teaching was buy-in. We were teaching you to buy in, to be selfless for the one next to you. Do it for the one next to you. Learn how to win. Learn how to fail. Learn how to go through struggle with someone, because as you move through life, what is going to be the successes and failures? The decisions that you make. Okay?
That's true.
And the group that you have around you. If you be around good people, as Mama tells us, and if you make a bad decision, at least it won't be one that's detrimental to you, because the group that you run with is a good group. And so that's what we're trying to teach in essence, and that's what we got into it for. But now what's happening is the adults are getting in the way. One of the reasons why, and I talk about
so is winning.
Winning.
Because you keep talking about the teaching of basketball, and you were dead on. But are the parents and even the coaches and directors understanding how winning is, in your philosophy, winning is really not always the ultimate important ingredient.
It's not. It's the byproduct. If you think
so, that takes a transformation of
it does. And so think about how this works. Most of us that are adults, we didn't grow up with the computer. We didn't grow up with the cell phone.
I got a degree in computer science, and I graduated and never hadn't even owned a computer. I had a degree in computer science, didn't even have a computer.
But if you're a Zoomer, if you're a Generation Z, that's all you know.
Right.
So the way you get information, the natural way you get information, is probably about 10 to 20 times more informative or accessible to you than it was when we was young.
Right.
Okay. So you have this generation of kids that they live on their phones, they live on their computers, everything about how they access and the information that's available to them. Like, they know what's going on in the world. Only way we knew what was going on in the world if we stopped and watched the 5 o'clock news.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
You're right.
So, but you have adults in the room that have, they're done learning. They don't want to be told anything different. They have a basketball process that someone taught them, which is basically, I call, outdated, because they're playing this 50-50 basketball, and they're walking into the gyms, and instead of meeting the kids where they are, especially if the process was successful, they don't care. Matter of fact, they do care to this extent. I want to show you that there's a different way to do it. And so you have all this bickering because as much as there's opportunity and exposure for the kid, the more money and attention that comes into it, the parents are jumping in, and especially the adults that are calling themselves supposed to be creating opportunities for the kids, they're taking this as an opportunity to showcase themselves.
Right.
So they're getting caught up in that. Right. And that's why we see the struggle to come together and organize, so that we, the ones that are actually developing the kids, are creating the platforms for the kid to play on. And so to your point, I agree with that point, that if we can somehow create, get back to what the basics are. Like if you think about what we just talked about in terms of how in my gym we think about process in basketball, 90% of the games for us are won off the bus. All we have to do is do us. If we do us because of the way we process the game, we're shooting for more points than you're even thinking about getting. Right. So all we have to do is be halfway successful with what we do, and we're in games. But when I talk to coaches, especially the coaches in the club that I was working in, I didn't do anything but argue about basketball.
Right. So this is my thing. You got a philosophy, you got a mindset on how things should flow and be operated. You were at CyFair. So this is my thing. And you said where people. So my thing is, like, Earl Allen is over CyFair. It is no secret. Is he on board with that type of philosophy, or is it more about, I'm getting these girls scholarships, I'm this, I'm that? It ain't about the ball movement and setting picks or whatever. Shit, you come play with me, shit, you gonna get a scholarship rather than.
Okay, think about that for a second. So think about that for a second. What is the differentiator in his program? And like you talked about a minute ago, he has the recent success right now. So all you can do is just take what the marketplace is showing us. What is the differentiator between him and the other clubs?
I personally, to me, I think it's talent.
I know I can, okay, but
I think it's relationship.
No, I can tell you what it is. I was in it and I built it for him. It was the connecting of the academy to the grassroots to the high school. Here's what I mean.
No. I don't want to say no. I take that back. I think the connecting of your product to the high school.
Well,
I ain't gonna say grassroots. I'm talking about your product.
Well, you got to remember,
you was the grassroots.
Yeah, I walked through the grassroots and then didn't advance past the bridge. What I call is the bridge. So we knew 15U was coming at some point in time. Right. Okay, and so the bridge is being able to still touch the grassroots kid and be over the influencing of how basketball is being processed for them and getting them ready so they're ready for the 17U. That's what's a difference. And here's how you can see it in the numbers. If you look at, even though Pro Skills has